Yeah, Felix, so speaking to Sid after the game, he, of course, saying all the right things. I'm intrigued, guys. Obviously, in the flash zone, you would have seen the Atleti players and the Atleti coach as well. I'm just wondering what their body language and what they were saying after the game, considering how late that defeat came.
Yeah, Dan, well, the first one to walk into the room was none other than Diego Simeone. And as he walked in, honestly, you could probably hear a pin drop. It was a bit like a funeral. And honestly, Sid, that's kind of what it feels like with this Atletico Madrid team. It's almost as if they've finally gotten to the point where there's no coming back.
Yeah, and I think as well, when Diego Simeone came into the flash zone, there were a couple of technical problems with the Spanish TV channel that he had to speak to. And he stood there for a very long time, waiting. Stony-faced and not saying a word to anybody. Not to his press officers, not to his own personal press officer, not to the people from the club, not Thomas Reñones, who's kind of like the club ambassador, I suppose, for want of a better phrase. And there was, I think, a sense that this was an opportunity lost, and that possibly, in fact, in all probability, means that the league title is lost as well. And talking to people at Atletico about this idea that we've talked about pre-show today and we've talked about in the previous weeks as well, of them not being sure what exactly it is they want to be this year. There's not quite an identity crisis, but certainly I think a lack of clarity about what their identity needs to be.
What do you think Cholo's thinking now, though? Because as we said, the January transfer window is coming up. We keep asking, and Sid did try to ask everyone, what's that thing that's missing? And none of them, of course, really could put their finger on it. But what to do if you're Cholo with the January transfer window coming up?
Well, I mean, I suppose the first thing to say is that even if they can put their finger on it, they're not likely to say so. So if they really are conscious that something is missing and it's something very, very clear, they're not likely to say, well, by the way, the problem is that, the left back's terrible or the middle of midfield, we're not keeping the ball anymore. But I think João Felix was interesting in that he talked about it being a problem from the defence and the midfield and the forward line, but then he talked about the missing chances.
Yep.
He said, when we do create chances and we're not taking them. And I'm not 100% sure I agree. I think it's true that when he came on today, Atletico created a couple of chances. He, of course, hit the post. There was a sense, I think, of some momentum building. But it was largely a second half, and we were sitting behind the goal, and admittedly we're a long way from the goal that Atletico were attacking, but we were sitting behind the goal, certainly for the first 25 minutes of the second half, thinking, there's actually nothing really very much happening here.
Much ado about nothing.
And I think so, if you talk about missed chances, yes, you can always talk about that, and Simeone loves to use this word contundencia, which essentially means the ability to make something, do something decisive. So either you're defensively very, very contundente, in other words, you make the challenges, you make sure they don't score goals, or in the penalty area, the opposite penalty area, you get one chance, you score. And that is true, it's not happening. But it is really only one chance. They're not creating very much this year either.
Not creating at all, and it was definitely like a bit of a funeral procession for Atletico Madrid. I mean, kudos to João Felix. He did put on a massively brave face, but he's not played as much as he would have wanted to, so he probably doesn't feel as if that all of this is really his fault. As for Sevilla, they were happy as ever. They still don't want to say that they can go after the title itself. It's almost like, shh, don't say it, you might jinx it, even though Real Madrid are that far ahead. But surely they have to at least try.
They have to. Me and you were talking about this off air just before we started recording. So I don't understand why players are so reluctant to admit that at the very least that they're going to try. Because there does seem to be this sense, as you say, it might be that they feel like they're jinxing it. It might be they feel like if they say, well, we're going to go for it, and then they don't, people will, I don't know, point the finger or laugh or blame them for having said so. But there's nothing wrong with saying, you know what, we're going to try.
Going to have a go.
If anyone can push Real Madrid for the league title this year, it's this lot now, given the position they're in, given how strong the squad is. It's true that they've been running on empty a little bit this month, but they've got only one more game left. That's when Barcelona come here on Tuesday night, I believe it is. And then they've got Christmas to kind of take the heat off again. And I think they need that break. And Julian was talking very clearly, Julian Lopetegui, after the game about how physically he thinks this is a team that's struggling.
Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN+.